Hey, how's everybody doing? Welcome back to another episode of Exit the Norm. I'm Jeff.
I'm not Jeff.
Wait, where's not Jeff Jr.? Hey, what are you doing?
I was trying to learn something here.
So today we're in Massachusetts. More specifically, we're in Concord, Massachusetts at Sleepy Hollow Cemetery because there's some pretty famous authors that are buried here.
So we'll show you around, tell you their story.
Will I learn anything?
Maybe. Sleepy Hollow Cemetery, it's a classic example of a 19th century garden-style cemetery. Now, these types of cemeteries were apparently all the rage back then because city populations were increasing and keeping the dead within the city was basically a health hazard. So most towns and cities chose to bury their dead 1 to 5 miles outside of the city. Now, these cemeteries included beautiful, majestic sculptures and depictions of death that were positive and optimistic, unlike the pessimistic, puritanical cemeteries. As a result, these cemeteries became a place for the public to gather and enjoy outdoor recreation at a time when public parks were not really a thing. The location of the cemetery was part of Deacon Reuben Brown's farm that the local citizens had nicknamed Sleepy Hollow. In fact, a number of Concord residents, including Henry David Thoreau, Ralph Waldo Emerson, and Nathaniel Hawthorne, used to take their evening walks here. Sleepy Hollow Cemetery was dedicated on September 29, 1855. The design and the layout of the cemetery was meant to mimic the natural landscape, reflecting the transcendentalist view of nature. Many of the transcendentalist writers, who are actually buried here now, thought of the cemetery as a place where one could honor the dead and nature at the same time. In Emerson's dedication speech, he said, "A simultaneous movement has in 100 cities and towns in this country selected some convenient piece of undulating ground with pleasant wood and waters. Every family chooses its own clump of trees, and we lay the corpse in these leafy colonnades." There are many notable graves here at Sleepy Hollow, but we chose to focus on just a few for this visit. We are planning on coming back here at some point, so if there's anyone that we don't cover in this video that you want us to track down, let us know in the comments and we'll do our best to find them. Once you get to Author's Ridge, you're going to go up this path, and at the top of this little hill, you're going to be in front of one of the first notable family plots here, and this is the Thoreau family plot. Buried here is American transcendentalist poet, philosopher, and essayist Henry David Thoreau. He's most famously known for Walden, in which he talks about the 2 years he spent living in a modest cabin on the shores of Walden Pond right here in Concord, Massachusetts. And he's also known for an essay called Civil Disobedience, where basically he refused to pay his taxes because he didn't trust the government because of their support of slavery in the Mexican-American War. Numerous historical figures throughout the years were influenced by this essay, including Gandhi, Martin Luther King Jr., John F. Kennedy, Ernest Hemingway, Sinclair Lewis, Upton Sinclair, and many others. After paying tribute to Henry David Thoreau, continue down the path and look immediately to your left, and you'll see the Hawthorne family plot. Buried here is famous novelist and short story writer Nathaniel Hawthorne. He's best known for The Scarlet Letter in 1850 and The House of the Seven Gables in 1851. Originally from Salem, Massachusetts, he did spend a good deal of time here in Concord, which is why he's buried along with other members of his family here in Sleepy Hollow. After leaving the Hawthorne lot, look to your right and you'll see the Alcott family lot. Buried here is the majority of the Alcott family. You have Amos Bronson Alcott, the patriarch of the Alcott family, a famous writer, teacher, philosopher, reformer, abolitionist, feminist, and member of the Transcendentalist Club. But most people know him as Mr. March in his daughter's world-renowned semi-autobiographical novel, Little Women. His wife, Abby May, is also buried here. She was a famous suffragist, abolitionist, social worker, and overall great person. She's the inspiration for the character of Marmee in Little Women. And here you also have Anna Alcott Pratt, the oldest sister of Louisa May. She fell in love with John Bridge Pratt, and their wedding was the inspiration for the marriage of Meg and John in Little Women. Elizabeth Sewell Alcott is also buried here. She tragically died of scarlet fever at the age of 22. And in Little Women, she was actually the character of Beth. Finally, we come to the side of probably the most famous Alcott, Louisa May. She's the one that wrote Little Women in 1868, Little Men in 1871, and Jo's Boys in 1886. The Little Women's been adapted numerous times for the stage and screen. There's the 1994 version with Winona Ryder, and then most recently in 2019 with Saoirse Ronan playing the role of Jo. So if you're a die-hard Little Women fan like Not Jeff is, then you have to visit the Orchard House nearby. It's where the Alcotts lived until 1877 and where Louisa May wrote and set her famous novel in 1868. The final literary grave that we're going to show you here is right here in the Emerson family plot. Resting here is poet, philosopher, and essayist, and the father of transcendentalism, Ralph Waldo Emerson. Arguably the greatest writer of his time, his works have influenced so many other writers and thinkers with his idea of being self-reliant and only trusting oneself. Only then could an individual be at his or her best. Some of his famous works include Nature and Self-Reliance. His house is also nearby, so you should probably check that one out too. So if you ever get a chance to visit Concord, Massachusetts, make sure you stop off here at the Old Manse. It was built in 1770 by Ralph Waldo Emerson's grandfather.
So seeing that it was here in 1775, it was actually right here just in the backyard that the first shots of the Revolutionary War happened, back at the North Bridge here.
It was also where Emerson wrote his famous essay, Nature. And then after that, Nathaniel Hawthorne lived here with his wife for a time.
This place is pretty cool.
There was one last grave we wanted to check out before leaving Sleepy Hollow, and it's this one. This is the final resting place of one of the most prominent sculptors in the 19th and early 20th centuries, Daniel Chester French. The French sculpted dozens upon dozens of statues around the globe, including a few right here in Concord. He sculpted the Minuteman statue at the Old North Bridge, the site of the shot heard round the world, sparking the American Revolution. He sculpted the Melvin Memorial right here in Sleepy Hollow Cemetery, and this is a grave dedicated to three brothers who lost their lives in the Civil War. And he also sculpted one that just about everyone should recognize, the Lincoln Memorial. Now, tradition dictates that if you visit his grave, you should place a penny in the laurel leaves as a sign of respect. So we did that. Thanks for joining us here on another chapter of Exit the Norm.
Make sure you like, subscribe, and show us how good of an author you are down in the comments.
Thanks, I actually learned something today.